wanted to discuss some of the proposed changes based on the last time that we spoke. So those proposed changes are going to relate to design changes and also measurement changes. It seemed as if the main thing, aside from some issues with randomization, dealt with the differences between the two groups. And now I've already changed the label on the groups to remove the contact control portion. And you'll see what we ended up doing with that. So essentially, there's only two options for what participants can get after their two guided resistance training sessions, which are the run-in period. They can't be randomized unless they've done those two sessions. They will either be in the behavioral coaching group or they'll be in the control group. And so the behavioral coaching group will get that behavioral coaching, which will be those 4 sessions spread apart by 1 week. And they'll also get access to the RT in-home website, which will have the resistance training information and guidelines, and also the resistance training videos for them to follow. While the control group will only get access to this website. So some things you'll notice that in terms of materials being gone, one, we decided not to use the resistance training application. So while this may have been ideal for measuring behavior, there would be issues with self-monitoring. With the control group, for example, it might prompt them to start self-monitoring, and then because we're not necessarily measuring that, we won't know if that's something that was causing behavior change. If participants were disengaged, we will not get information from the application, so we won't have information if they didn't use it. And there's too many platforms that I was proposing. There was Zoom, the website, and then also PT Distinction. So this is a little bit cleaner. We decided to remove the nutrition component from the control group, and I chose to eliminate the contact control for 2 reasons. First is that we're more likely to see differences between the groups. This is probably going to be important since my sample size might be on the smaller end. The second reason is that it's more closely mimics the real world conditions. So if someone goes into a facility, they might end up getting 2 sessions with a trainer, and then set out on their own to go and do what they just learned. We understand that we'll not be sure if the intervention was due to coaching or contact with the PI, but this is a question that future studies can examine. And again, there'll be no contact with the research team after the guided training for the control group. And again, that guided training is the run-in period where they'll only be randomized if they've done those 2 sessions. In terms of randomization, we decided to stratify randomization based on sex. So that's in addition to just using the random numbers generator. The behavioral coaching group will get SMS messages that will be useful for self-monitoring and then also planning. So they will still receive prompts of their plans. They'll also receive a self-monitoring text. The text will read this: did you do RT in the last 7 days? How many times did you engage in RT? And then on average, how long did you engage in resistance training? We will not message the control group, as this may trigger self-monitoring. And again, we'll not know if participants are activated by the message or by the content of the message. And these are all good questions to explore for future research. In terms of measurement, so how do we know if people meet the inclusion criteria? We have the definition of our resistance training. This was from Harada. All exercises intended for enhancing muscle strength and endurance, including weight-bearing exercises, exercises using dumbbells, tubes, and exercises using machines or barbells. That will be the definition that we'll provide. And the next question for inclusion will be based on what Forbes used. Have you done any strength exercise in the past month? How often and for how long? It will be multiple choice, so as in it might say if they answer no, then they would be included. If they say yes, we would say 1, 2, 3, 4. So if they pick any number that's 2 or higher, they won't be eligible. We'll have that data reported to if they have reported that on average they do 1 day of resistance training. In terms of measuring behavior, at the end of the study, we will also measure physical activity as soon as participants join the study. But in terms of measuring behavior, we will be using the modified Godin leisure time questionnaire. This has been used when we look at the literature, it's one of the more frequently used ones. It was used by Rhodes in his 2016 paper, and Rhodes is the one that wrote the 2017 systematic review. So participants will report the frequency and duration of resistance training using a modified version of the Go Down Leisure Time exercise questionnaire. The adapted measure has shown good predictive validity in past resistance training research. This will be measured at the end of phase 2 and phase 3, and participants will receive a monetary incentive when they actually fill out the questionnaire. And then just some things with that, we realized that on one end that might be subject to some kind of recall bias, where they might not be reporting completely accurately. But then the trade-off with that would be if we were messaging the control group every single day, or if they were using the resistance training application, that we'd run into that self-monitoring issue once again. So again, those would all be things to look at for future research as well.